The movie introduces Ben in his working element. He's a brand manager rallying up models to walk the stage and promote the brand. There's music and drinks and some giveaways. When it all dies down, a coworker tells Ben he's done a great job and he can see the brand going far in the next 2 years. Ben is like, sure, but it's time he bows out. Not exactly what the colleague was expecting to hear after just 6 months. A send-off is organized on his behalf, recognizing his 6 months, apparently 7 actually, of service. His next line to conquest is casual sportswear. He's given a token of appreciation and praised as someone who's good at selling a product to a demographic. As he's packing up to head out, a woman, Kathy, a colleague, approaches him with a gift, wishing him happy birthday. He's surprised that she knows it's his birthday, or he wanted a heart rate monitor. Her replies give off stalker vibes, and the kiss that follows labels her as intense. Ben gently pushes her off and states he's met someone. Kathy points out that it's nothing special, as Ben is a known ladies' man, but he claims this one is different. Ben meets up with another woman who he can't remember the name. They're scheduled for a date, and she brought a gift. But that's as different and as special as it gets. The movie continues to show Ben in different scenes, buying exclusive stuff and trying to flirt with more women. He finally reaches his apartment and meets a party of people that came to give him a surprise birthday celebration. The party is in full swing, with Ben running into party guests like his ex, Steph, his flatmate, Nick, his by-force mentor, Sam, and his best buddy, Andy. Even Fleur shows up and comments he's got a nice place. It's Ben's 7th apartment in 5 years. Ben's icing on the cake is a night in with Fleur. By morning light, Nick is back from a hill climb that he went in full gear with his bike and helmet. Ben can't believe his energy, as it's only 7 in the morning, and they'd just had a party the previous night. Nick states he feels energized, but not so much when he sees Fleur leaving the apartment in his t-shirt. Ben promises Nick has the better life with his stable relationship with his partner, M, and his stable career. For Nick, it seems dull in comparison to Ben dating models and earning twice as much. Ben goes home to see his parents. His mom presents a gift, and his father reveals Ben is just 27. At his age, his father was an assistant manager with his first company car. Ben's mom got him some books, one named Kilimanjaro, in preparation for his trip. Ben has to explain the trip there has actually been delayed, but will still happen, maybe. Over a set table, Ben's father shows him a picture of himself when he was 27. A stable man with a woman he would spend years of his future with. His mom asks about his ex, Steph, still under the impression that she and Ben are together. It doesn't take too much of Ben's beating around the bush for her to conclude her son has moved on from Steph. When it's time to leave, his father asks him to explain and mail his job function to him, so he can properly relay it to his friends when next they ask. Ben tells him this much. He's a strategic branch manager and has a new job as the same job function, but in a different place. His mom hands him his gifts he almost forgot, and a mail, and he promises to take out time to read them. Back at his apartment, Ben reads a mail to Nick that he got from his high school directory, inviting him for a speech engagement. At a nights out, Nick tells M Ben was invited to their high school careers night. M informs them Alex was also invited. She's a human rights lawyer that works for the United Nations, and Nick feels it's a big deal they'll get to see her. On the side, Fleur and Ben are still going strong, somewhat. He invites her to the night out with his friends and has gone on several dates before then with her. After spending the night with her, she asks by daylight when next they'll see. He can't put a date, excusing the new job he'll be starting soon. She leaves their next encounter to him, stating she'd love if he surprised her. Ben resumes his new job, which happens to be his 10th in 7 years. Ben's new boss has an interesting task for him. The company has an old brand that needs reviving, and they're thinking they can get women to buy the relaunch with Ben's help. The boss emphasizes that's why Ben was hired. Ben goes to Fleur's place of work to state he needs time apart. Fleur remarks they've only been together for 2 days, and Ben relays he hasn't quite come to terms with his breakup from a previous long-term relationship. Either way, it's safe to say that's the last Ben will be seeing of Fleur. Sam finds Ben scribbling something he assumes is for his new job. Ben explains he got an honorable invite to give a speech at his high school. Sam asks what the speech is supposed to be about, and Ben details the speech will be about life, career, and success after school days. Sam, ever the mentor, drops his 2 cents, and Ben decides it's good enough to add to his speech. Ben arrives at the gathering, and a blonde, pretty woman catches his attention. Before he can make his way up to her, he's interrupted by an old mate, Jim, an Olympian in archery. Jim reminds Ben he was good at cricket, but Ben updates his cricket days are behind him. Ben gets to talk with Alex, the pretty blonde, before they're all called on stage. She details about her career path, causing the audience to laugh when she admits her dreams weren't as big as her reality. Now she's doing notable things in Africa and other nations. The audience is very engaged with what she has to say, and a lot of hands go up when the headmaster asks if the students have any questions for Alex. He can only allow a few because they'll need to move on to the next speaker, which is Ben. Ben finishes his speech, and the headmaster asks if the students have any questions for Ben. Sadly, there are none. At the reception, Alex tries to get Ben to have a drink with her, but he declines and elucidates they can see each other around town. Jim, ever the interrupter, states he's up for some drinks, but only if he knew how unwelcome he's being. The headmaster tells Ben not to feel bad as the students would need time to process the idea of rebranding vodka being cool. There's also the fact Alex spoke so well and his speech should have probably come before hers. Ben has a movie night with his pals, and he briefs them on how the speech engagement went. They're very impressed with the idea of Jim as an Olympian and of Alex too. After the movie, Ben asks for Alex's number from Em. Em notifies him she went to Canberra in the morning and would be flying out. She offers to give Ben Alex's email, and Ben expresses that will be fine. 4 weeks later, it's Christmas Eve and Ben has work Christmas party he's not enthusiastic about. He plans to make an appearance, but sneak out the back. The sneaking out becomes impossible because the party is hosted on a boat. His boss is high on prospects that have been sold to the company concerning the rebranding, and Ben tries to warn him to be careful, but he's not quite listening. The rest of the work Christmas party is announced to take place at a concert hall. Luckily for Ben, on land equals easier escape, and he gets the bonus to spend the rest of the night having sex with a coworker. Andy goes through the mailbox and finds a mail addressed to Ben. He hands it over and Ben opens it to find a greetings card with a picture of Alex in the heart of work. He holds on to the card and the picture, pondering for days. Ben goes to see Sam and admits the talk at the high school made him realize his career path is rather flaky. Sam objects, stating Ben has a really good life with a really good income, and that's all that should matter. For Ben, his life has been more or less just okay. At the Australian Tennis Open Eve, an official sponsor function is taking place. Ben and his pals go to the function, where Katerina Sanova has been made the new ambassador for a wristwatch. Ben's boss has reasons to speak with the tennis player, with the help and support of Ben. Katerina's father is present, but takes no interest in whatever Ben's boss is offering. Katerina, on the other hand, fancies Ben. Katerina approaches Ben while he's with his mates, and she makes it clear she fancies him. They take the attraction back to her penthouse that screams reward of a famous tennis player, and they have sex. The next day, Ben's boss informs Ben at the office that Katerina might just be considering a sponsorship with them. Ben tries to open up to Sam how he really feels, how milestones don't seem to excite him anymore, but Sam assures he has the remedy. He lends Ben his Ferrari and tells him to use it to impress his new girl, Katerina. Ben takes the bait. Ben's boss remains impressed with Ben's ability to get Katerina on board. Meanwhile, Ben is now thrown into her world, having to attend her practices and the tournament. At the tournament, Katerina is getting whooped by her opponent, and her father keeps yelling Russian commentaries. Ben tries to get him to tone down, but her father turns his intensity to him. Ben is forced to shout to the hearing of the crowd that he wasn't intimate with his daughter the previous night. The next board meeting, voices are raised. It seems they've lost Katerina, and Ken isn't happy in the least. He throws blame at Ben for ruining their chances, and Ben defends it's not his fault. Their boss is able to quieten the two men and assure Ken the brand ambassador concept isn't to be ruled out. Ben believes the brand ambassador concept won't work regardless. No youth wants to wear something just because someone popular pretended to wear it. People gravitate towards brands based on reinvention and rediscovery, and what the company needs to stop doing is throwing all their efforts into not-so-worth-it endorsements. Katerina tells Ben she'll be heading to Dubai in preparation for the next tournament. There's no bad blood on both ends, and they kiss to that. Back at the apartment, Ben lets on to Andy Katerina's whereabouts. He remarks they're open to hookups whenever they meet next. Andy settles down to watch TV, but Ben asks him to please turn it off so he can get something off his chest. He starts off by saying he's been feeling off and disoriented, but Andy confuses it to mean he's having an ear infection. Ben tries to explain that's not what he means, but Andy isn't paying proper attention. Instead, he recalls when they went diving and suggests they do that soon again, once Ben gets his ear checked. eager to talk to someone. Ben drives over to his father's place of work and pleads for a father-son chat. Ben asks his father if he's ever questioned what he's doing with his life, and the father replies, he's had his moment. The father advises there's no truly satisfactory path, and it's left for a person to just do what's right for them. Ben wants to understand how someone can know a path is right for them, and questions if he's having a midlife crisis. Well, quarter-life crisis, as he's just 27. The father isn't of much help, though, suggesting other people he could bring into the conversation, as he just doesn't have the perfect answer. Em and Rick announce their engagement to both Ben and Andy, who are happy to hear the good news. Ben confronts Rick to know if he's rushing into marriage, as he isn't even 30 yet. Rick promises he's under no pressure and is venturing into something he wants to. Ben finds it hard to understand because kids in school will follow after marriage, and all of the unvisited adventures like Kilimanjaro will remain unvisited. The way he sees it, they were like the Three Musketeers, and now one person is bowing out. Nick, with a reassuring smile, states his future with Em is an adventure of its own, and Ben decides to let sleeping dogs lie. 2 months later, Ben is indoor rock climbing with Nick, who announces Alex will be touching base that night and will be present at Sam's opening. Alex shows up and mingles well with the group. Jim is also present. The guys are at a table while the girls, Em and Alex, are on the dance floor, chatting and laughing. Ben stares at Alex with a love-struck smile on his face. He decides to approach them with a bottle of champagne in hand and 3 glasses. He tells Alex he wasn't aware she'd be around and was going to email her the previous week. She states it was a last-minute trip, and Ben thanks her for the card and the photo he received, informing her they've been well kept and appreciated. Ben asks her to hang out with him the following week, but she reveals she has a flight to catch the next night. Thank goodness for Em's presence, as she mouths to Ben to reschedule for the afternoon before Alex has to leave. Alex agrees to lunch with Ben on the account that her previously scheduled lunch with Em has now been canceled. Alex meets with Ben for their lunch date. They start off in a museum, mostly because Ben thinks it's something she'd appreciate. After looking at some art and ready to suffer through an exhibition, Alex decides on his behalf they're better off walking around instead. They start their walk, citing landmarks before ending up in their high school exam hall. Ben recalls a particular guy that used to sit right next to him and cheat off him. He would fail on purpose just to teach the guy a lesson. The revelation makes Alex giggle. Ben admits being back at their school makes him feel weird, especially since he dropped out, and everyone seemed to stick to it. Alex opines they all envied him as he technically dropped out into a cool job and some cool cash. Ben feels she has a cool job too, taking her to exquisite places. But Alex admits she's not so crazy about her current location. Alex expresses she never thought Ben noticed her when they were in school, and he maintains that he most definitely did. Ben admires that Alex can stay focused, something he struggles with. She proves his point when they go to a foreign restaurant, and Alex easily communicates in Arabic to order them food. It's incredible to Ben, who can't even order a donut after 7 years of torturous French. He decides Arabic and learning to play the ukulele are now on his to-do list. Ben makes their lunch date an exciting one by saying silly stuff and causing Alex to frequently laugh out loud. He tells her he'd love to visit Yemen and informs her she can surf there should she find the time. After their meal and Ben's ongoing terrible attempt at Arabic, he asks what they should do next. He's in the middle of suggesting some gelatos when Alex pulls him in for a kiss. It takes a second round of lips locking to pull her out of a supposed trance. She suddenly realizes she has to leave, and Ben offers to drive her to the airport. She declines, and he remarks he'll do better at keeping in touch this time around. Alex is fine with that. But then Ben starts talking about coming to Yemen, and Alex tries to talk him out of it. He insists that it would be a good milestone for him, and she should expect him in a couple of months. Ben and Andy go mountain skiing, and as they're gearing up, Ben tells Andy he should be in Yemen in 3 months' time. He also picked up on the fact that Alex didn't want him to come. Andy subconsciously remarks Ben would only try to go, and it would be a case that at least he tried and Alex wouldn't be too disappointed about it. At a bar, Ben is still adamant on Yemen, talking about learning some conversational Arabic in preparation to go. His fleeting-minded pal, Andy, thinks that's a great idea and offers they learn it together. Ben gets excited, wanting to talk more of how they'll successfully do it. But their dates come over, and that conversation is left hanging. Ben and Andy go bungee jumping, then sit by the hillside with bottles of beer in hands. Ben comments their lives have been great so far, and Andy couldn't agree more. He tries to thank Andy for helping him take his mind off some foggy thoughts, but realizes it's no use, as his best pal is just a surface scratcher with an evaporative mind. Ben visits Nick and Em in Queenstown at their new apartment. Nick remarks they're renting, but it's a place that's cool enough for Ben to give him a mental pat on the back. Em asks Ben if he's kept in touch with Alex, but he piles on disappointing excuses on how he's not. Em tells him she's given up on him as his personality of never being able to follow through with something isn't something she can keep up with. 2 months later, seems Ben's resignation letter from his job is in tow. Ben's boss is happy with how well the rebranding of a product is coming together and tries to entice Ben to stay with them, as his decision to leave isn't final. Ben and Andy show up at an event both in the company of high-class models. Ben goes to talk to Em and Nick, until Em is whisked away by Jim for some horse betting bookings. Ben spots Alex and expresses he didn't know she was around. Nick explains she came in early for their wedding and is in the company of her boyfriend, both which are currently spending a couple of weeks holidaying on the reef. Ben watches them, hands locked, and Alex laughing heartily at something her new guy, a diver, said. Nick thought Ben was pursuing Alex, and Ben, with a sigh, concedes he's been a fool. And from what Nick knows, the boyfriend doesn't have any flaws to give Ben hope. Uneasy, Ben finds Alex with Em and tries to both catch and explain he almost followed through with seeing her. Alex waves him off with her smile, stating she wasn't expecting him to actually come. Ben gets introduced to Alex's guy, Nils, and Ben introduces his casual date, Kelly. They all sit around a table and Kelly becomes the center of attention with a story of her modeling experience. She apologizes for taking the spotlight, but Nils urges her to say more as he's quite interested. Kelly decides instead to put the baton in his hand, getting him to talk about his career path. Ben remains uncomfortable and agitated well into the night when Em invites Nils for some sightseeing with the rest of the gang. Ben, who has had enough, bails, but tells Alex he'll keep in touch. She and Nils will leave on the coming Wednesday and be back in time for Em and Nick's wedding. Ben heads home and pokes around for details from Andy if there were any slip-ups from Nils. Andy remarks there were none, and he and Kelly were made for each other. A tired Andy starts to unwind for the night, but Ben springs up conversation about the Kilimanjaro book his mom gave him. It's about this guy who's facing the end of it and starts thinking about everything he's done, only to realize he hasn't really accomplished anything meaningful. He tells Andy he feels like the protagonist from the book. It's been a great year with a lot to tick off his bucket list, but they just don't add up to something meaningful. He's really in his feelings, expressing how he keeps doing so much, but not getting a satisfactory result. But when he turns to his confidant, Andy is fast asleep. Ben waits by the captain's cook cottage for Alex. She shows up and teases him that she's quite surprised he actually has the ability to text. Ben starts to beat around the bush, but Alex urges him to go straight to the reason for their meeting. He apologizes for not staying in touch, but maintains he really wanted to. He recalls their previous date and marks it as a great day for him. He mans up to his regrets of not doing better by her, but none of what he's just had to say is a means to achieve her back. He insists that all he can offer is apologizes, then walks away, leaving behind a teary-faced Alex. Alex follows Ben home, and Andy excuses the two so they can talk. Alex asks Ben what she is to him and accuses him of romanticizing her because she chose to stay away. Ben denies it, but Alex insists. Alex wants to know why Ben has chosen the most wrong moment to express his true feelings, and he can only answer with a kiss. Maybe it's the kiss or Andy's interruptions to retrieve stuff, but Alex decides she has to leave. Sam celebrates the birth of his son, Luca, with one of his elegant parties, and Ben shows up with Kelly as his date. Sam notices Ben seems disconnected and notes he's been wearing that look for 3 months now. He takes Ben aside to his office, and the first thing Ben notices is that Sam has real moments to frame in pictures. Sam goes on about what his nana once told him and offers to take Ben for a drive, but Ben is a cup filled to the brim. He tells Sam he's never been stable with a job or a house or a girl. He's 27 years old and has never even asked a girl out. Makes him wonder how he'll ever reach the stage of proposing or settling down. Sam tells him not to get like that, as he will find someone special. And for how to know if she's the one? Sam's advice is that no girl is the one. It's up to him to make her the one. Ben tries to take Kelly on a hot air balloon ride. His take is that they've been dating for 3 months, and he just thought to do something romantic. Kelly doesn't react the way he presumed, scared he was going to propose. During Ben's mom's convocation, Ben informs his parents that he and Kelly are no longer an item. His father congratulates him for at least passing the 3 months mark. Nick has a bachelor's party. Then, on driving Ben home, he asks if Ben is cool with Alex coming for the wedding. He says he is. Nick gives better advice than Sam and offers a better listening ear than Andy, telling Ben to work on himself before finding the right girl. The day of the wedding comes with Andy and Ben as the groomsman and Alex as the bridesmaid. Eager I-dos and celebrations are in order. Turns out both Alex and Ben are on breaks from their partners. They discuss this while the new bride and groom are taking wedding photographs. At the reception, while the wedded couple dance, Alex and Ben steal longing glances at each other. Ben gives his groomsman's speech, and it's rather very captivating and touching on the subject of love, marriage, and commitment. Everyone listens attentively, and his mother stares at him bewildered at where this new Ben has evolved from. The party crowd bids the couple a lovely evening. Then Ben and Alex find their way to each other's arms in a slow dance. From the wedding ceremony, they take their rekindled affection to Ben's apartment where they make love. They wake up next to each other with Alex wanting to know if Ben actually ever noticed her back in school. He jokes around, but it's clear he did. She admits she doesn't want to get on another plane. Ben springs out of bed to prepare a meal and lighten the mood. He's surprised to see Alex all dressed, prepared for her next flight in 7 hours. She probes about how they can make their long-distance relationship work, and Ben brings up the empty promise of coming to see her. He insists that what he needs is time to sort things out. Deflected, Alex voices she wants something serious and substantial, drawing inspiration from Rick and M's Golden Day. Alex arrives at the airport, lost in thoughts and hopes, but still managing to go through the process of boarding the plane. A new Ben is born after Alex leaves. He decides not to move out of his apartment or quit his job. For the first time in forever, he's making an effort to stay put. Ben sets up his apartment with homely framed pictures and calls on Sam to drive him to the airport. He's on his way to the other side of the world to meet a woman that most likely never wants to see him again. What's more is that he's doing this with no plan. He flies all the way to Dubai, finds Alex at work, and asks her to be his girlfriend. He's also learned a handful of Arabic to Alex's surprise. Alex says yes and seals it with a kiss. They have no idea how their relationship will work, but first things first, memories like this must be photographed.